from my initial walkthrough, I could tell that most likely the last thing Maggie ever saw was her son very graphically murdered.
Could you imagine that for Maggie? The last thing you see before your life is taken is your son murdered, and the person responsible is the person you married. Wow. That's awful. That is awful. Welcome back, folks. We're working on a lot of things right now tonight, and really what we're doing is trying to get further insight into what happened during this 6-week trial, what happened during this entire case and the investigation. One of the things we're going to bring to you momentarily is an interview with one of the jurors. We're just setting everything up. A lot of moving pieces right now. What I do want to play for you, though, is part of an interview that Chanley Painter did earlier today with Jason Chapman, who's going to talk about this attack on SLED and the investigation into the case. Take a listen.
I will defend SLED a little bit on this, because I know that the big thing has been, why didn't they go straight to the house with a search warrant and search the house? And we don't know exactly. As Laura said, we left and there was a new team taking over. I don't know what they saw exactly that steered them in the direction they went. Yeah. But I will tell you this, they got 3 interviews out of Alex. 3 interviews that we're able to look at his body language, we're able to take the stories that he got that don't match up. One of the biggest pushes in the trial was that he lied, and we eventually got him to come clean on the stand. And we have 3 opportunities recorded of him being interviewed by agents in regards to that lie, and every one of them had an opportunity to come clean. He didn't. Had we treated him like a whole suspect that night, if we'd have gone in and tore apart the house and drilled him as a suspect as opposed to a caller, he's an attorney. You don't think that we'd have called back the next day and say, hey, we need to do a follow-up? And I'm telling you, it would have shut down. And that may have been part of their plan. I don't know completely, but I can see very clearly that, I mean, every time we talked to him, he had an attorney friend with him. Yeah. If we'd have pushed that envelope the first night, we'd have had 1 interview, and it would have been cut short, and we would not have had the other 2 to use to compare those stories.
What a great point. What a great point. Because remember, this case was really built on the words of Alex Murdaugh more than anything else. And the approach and the use of the way they went about this investigation really helped build it. Let's bring back in Matt Harris, host of the Murdaugh Family Murders Impact of Influence podcast. And that's really a great point here. You know, you want to attack. And by the way, in every single trial I've ever covered, the defense always attacks the investigation. It's never done well, folks, according to the defense, never done well. Yet every time they seem to be able to figure out who did it, right? So, Matt, let me ask you about what he just said there. The way SLED did the interviews allowed them to get more interviews with Alec and get more words from him, words that ended up being used against him.
Well, if that was their plan, and it may have well been, and the interview, okay, maybe that's what you're doing, but to not go to his mother's house still seems like it's going to be hard to convince me that that was a good choice, or that was some sort of trickery that they were trying to do by not going to look at the place where he said he was at the time of the murders, or to, you know, the way they were going through the house. They talk about SLED doing it quietly with John Marvin, I believe, was taking him through, and he'd show him some different places, wherever a gun could be, but he never talked about, you know, they didn't look in the drain, and that doesn't explain that. But, you know, here's some points.
Absolutely. All right, Matt, hold on a second. We've got a special guest joining us from Walterboro, South Carolina tonight. One of the jurors from the trial, James McDowell, joins us. James, great to see you tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
All right, let me start here. I've got a bunch of questions for you. I know you've been answering a lot of questions the last couple of days. Why do you think Alex Murdaugh murdered his son and his wife?
I think that's a question that we may never have the answer to, you know. I'm not able to really comprehend it. I'm not able to think like that. But I think the prosecution made a very good point as far as their theme with the storm. There's a lot of things there that are causing a lot of pressure for him. I think that it's just all coming to a point, and perhaps that's the reason.
And James, I'm so glad you're saying that and being honest about it, because prosecutors don't have to prove why. That's not an element of the crime. You didn't have to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt about it. And many times we have no idea why killers kill. Thanks so much for that answer, James. That's really interesting. All right, let me ask you another question. If you had an opportunity, and I know he testified in front of you for like a day and a half and you saw a bunch of interviews, but what would you want to ask Alex Murdaugh if you had an opportunity?
I think I'd want to ask him the question you just asked. You know, why? I can't fathom why anyone would want to do that. You know, I do believe he loved them. I couldn't imagine doing something like that to someone you love.
Anything else you'd want to ask him about that night?
Well, I guess there are a lot of unanswered questions there. You know, where are the guns? Where are the clothes? But those are also questions that I think we may never have the answers to.
And do you think those are questions that he obviously has the answers to?
I think he does.
So, do you have a theory on where the guns, actually two of them, went that night?
You know, I kind of just have to go where the evidence leads me, and we know where he went that night. And I think that just makes sense for him to have taken the guns with him to Alameda and perhaps stashed them there until he was able to get rid of them later on.
Okay, how about the clothes? Right now we're looking at video. I don't know if you can see it, but it's him with shorts and a T-shirt. You know that video I'm talking about from that night. What do you think he was wearing at the time of the murders, and where do you think those clothes are?
Well, we know that 2 months later, August 11th, law enforcement was able to recover a video where he's wearing slacks and a blue button-down. I believe that those were most likely the clothes that were used that night. I would imagine that they were probably taken off with the guns at the same time. And then, you know, at some point in time throughout the night, he changes into those shorts and that T-shirt whenever law enforcement gets there, and that's what they see them in.
Do you think there was testimony about a blue raincoat / blue tarp? What are your thoughts about that testimony? What did it mean to you? What do you think he was doing? And is that at all connected to the guns or the clothing?
I think it is. I think that they were more than likely put inside of that raincoat at some point in time. We know that there are 30-some-odd particles of GSR within that raincoat, and that was before they even finished all the testing. We know that he had several particles of gunshot residue on his hands and shorts from that night, which were consistent with him holding that shotgun that he had next to his vehicle. So I would consider 30-some plus a substantial amount. So I think they were definitely in contact with those murder weapons that night.
So let me ask you this, and I want you to think about this for just a second, all right? So prosecution presents their case, defense is presenting their case. Is there any piece of evidence or testimony that the defense could have presented to you, whether it's something that really exists or doesn't exist, right? Very open-ended here, that would have raised a reasonable doubt in your mind?
I think that's a very tough question. I think that you'd kind of have to go back to the beginning and start the trial over from the beginning for me to have forgotten all the evidence and witnesses that I've heard and seen. You know, unless they were able to just find the guns and find those clothes and just have everything squeaky clean, that, you know, to where we knew that they weren't there and they weren't used and that Alex wasn't there, you know, the thing is that there's evidence that he is there. So that's a really tough question. You know, I'm not sure if there is a piece of evidence that, you know, would give me reasonable doubt. I had to make my decision without a reasonable doubt, and I did. I think that's a really tough question.
Oh yeah, and it's because I'm asking you to go a place that wasn't gone to in this trial. There was nothing that the defense presented. But I was wondering if you were like waiting for something, and you sort of indicated that to me a little bit. If they came into court with that blue shirt that he's wearing in the tree video, the Snapchat video, and there's no blood on it, that might help you out a little bit. Let me ask you this. Why didn't you believe Alex Murdaugh? He got on the witness stand, he was looking at the jury, and he told them over and over again that he didn't do it, that he didn't murder Maggie, he didn't murder Paw or Paul. Why didn't you believe him?
I think that from prior witnesses, we already knew that he was able to be very convincing. He was able to be very convincing in court. He's able to go up there on the witness stand, and he knows that he's having to relate to a jury. He's wanting to show those emotions, and we already know that he's able to do that. So I think that a lot of the jurors were able to see through that and see that whenever he's trying to convince us of his lies, there are really more holes that are opened up that are unanswered. Just for example, he talks about the chicken and everything, and how he was having Bubba run up to him because Bubba was proud of the chicken. But whenever we listen to the video, we hear him hollering for Bubba, calling him to him. So, that's just, it doesn't really sound like he's running up to him. It sounds like he's, possibly running away. And that's part of that time there that you're having to condense from where he's saying that he's getting back to the house.
You guys went on a jury view at the end. After you heard all the evidence, then you visited the Moselle property. While you were there, what did you do? What did you notice? And what questions were answered for you in that trip?
When we were able to go down there, it was very important to just look around and see how close everything is to each other, and, see how far the house is from the shed. We're able to see, kind of based off of the pictures, how things would have looked differently, like that strip of trees there. We know that they were much younger 2 years ago, much smaller. Those are kind of the things that I wanted to look at. If he is leaving there before the murders happen and he gets back up there to the house, is he able to look back down to the shop? And then whenever he's leaving to go to Moselle, whenever he's coming off the front porch to get into his vehicle, he's able to, see all the lights on down there at the shop. I think that if you were standing on the front porch, you would have been able to hear those gunshots, or if you're getting off the golf cart going into the house, I think that you would have heard those gunshots. So those are just kind of the things that I want to see, is the distances and just the relation of everything to each other.
What did you take away from all that testimony about all the people that he cheated and lied to and stole money from?
I think that we saw that there was a lot there. There was a lot of motive. He had stolen all of this money. There was so much that he had stolen that if it were exposed, it's not just one person or a small amount. It's so many people, and so many people that he was able to convince, and so many people that he lied to, and just not his clients, but his friends as well.
Do you think he planned it? And if so, how far in advance?
I don't know how far in advance he planned it, but I definitely think he gave it some thought. We know that he's a lawyer. He kind of knows how these things get torn apart and how they go down in trial. I think that's why he left the Suburban there. I think that's why he left his phone at the house. We know that from his testimony, he had talked about how he had just gotten a shower and he didn't want to go outside and get hot and sweaty. And we had also heard testimony that vehicles were used just as much as golf carts. So then that made me question, well, if he is going to end up going down there to the shop, why doesn't he take a Suburban? It's got AC. If he's very concerned about getting hot and sweaty, I would think that he would want to take a Suburban over the golf cart.
So, one of the things that surprised a lot of people was the speed with which the verdict came in on that first day. I don't know if it was necessarily fast for a South Carolina trial. I was just looking at it in terms of how long the trial was. But describe for us the experience for you inside the jury room. And were you surprised that everyone agreed the first day?
So it was my first experience. You know, it's not something that I've done over and over again. There really wasn't precedence that I was looking, you know, anything that I knew about. So it was first time experience. Throughout the trial, we were able to take notes in the jury room, and we were able to write down our questions. I think that's what made us able to be so efficient in the final verdict. Sorry,
it's another wild night in Walterboro. I know. I was down there.
But yeah, that was
crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So
you know, everybody just laid their questions out, and I was just going to say that everybody kind of laid their questions out, and we got answers for them, and I think that's why we were able to do it there in 3 hours.
All right. Before we let you go here, James, and again, I appreciate your time today. I know you've been very busy. You're so well-spoken, and the way you've analyzed the evidence in the case in this. I'm just wondering if you'd mind sharing with us what you do for a living, and if you have any plans to be a lawyer.
You know, I'd never planned on being a lawyer. I actually work in construction. I'm an assistant superintendent over in Charleston. But no, I don't know if I have any plans of being a lawyer. I haven't gone to law school, and I don't really have a background in it.
Well, you would be fantastic, just the way you're able to put things together, or maybe an investigator as well. The tie is awesome. We appreciate you coming on. And do you have a message for people when they get that little note in the mail about jury service, about whether or not they should do it, if it's a positive experience, even if it takes away 6 weeks of your life?
You know, whether it's a positive or negative experience, I think that's going to be for everyone else to decide, you know, their own individual experience. But I will say that, you know, it's part of our amazing judicial system. What better person to be able to analyze a trial than your peers? You know, there's no room for corruption. Everyone is just listening. They're there. They're hearing everything that the witnesses have to say and looking at all the evidence that's there. I think that it's just a great part of our judicial system. So I would say, you know, if you get that letter in the mail, just think about how great of a country this is that we're able to have that type of system.
Fantastic. James McDowell, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for serving on the jury. We'll be back.
This is a case of revenge.
An ice cream man is mugged, beaten, and robbed. Now he stands accused of murder.
He became obsessed with finding who shot him.
Was this a vigilante double homicide, or is it a case of mistaken identity?
The Ice Cream Man murder retrial. Coverage continues weekdays at 8, 7 Central on Court.
There are 2 words that justice demands in this case, and those 2 words are not guilty. The oath you've taken in this case is to follow the law, to follow the Constitution, and to hold the government to the burden of proof. And it requires a verdict of not guilty. On behalf of Alex, on behalf of Buster, on behalf of Maggie, and on behalf of my friend Paul, I respectfully request that you do not compound a family tragedy with another. Thank you.
That was the conclusion of Jim Griffin's argument to the jury, an argument the jury did not agree with. They convicted his client of double murder. I want to take a listen. Chanley Painter going around today gathering up a lot of information after the fact here. Here's Jason Chapman, one of the first responders to the scene on June 7th, talking about the crime scene and the fact that it was cleaned up and what he thinks that means. Take a listen.
I believe he had some help in the aftermath.
Yes.
The disposal of weapons, the moving around of vehicles.
Yes.
We heard so much about, oh my goodness, SLED and the AG's office, and they don't have anything. It's all circumstantial. So I pose this question to you. if it's a cleaned crime scene, staged crime scene, cleaned crime scene, would you expect to find more evidence or less? And that's what's kind of hard to get people to understand, is that we didn't find a lot. But why didn't we find a lot? Because it was cleaned. I mean, it's manipulated. There's evidence removed from the scene.
And he could do all that in 17 minutes, or what was it, 16, 17 minutes? You have no doubt.
Well, you say 16 or 17 minutes, but I believe that they're pretty confident they were killed around 9 p.m. And then your phone call's not made until 10:07. So,
and I think Almeida came into play a little bit with that, and got him. That would buy him more time, like to come back the next day, and which I think Miss Shelley testified to that. So
blue raincoat.
Yes, blue raincoat. Him showing up at 6:30 in the morning, which wasn't usual. So I think he had more than enough time.
Fascinating insight. Let's bring in Chanley Painter, Court TV crime and justice correspondent, joining us tonight outside the courthouse in Walterboro. She's driving all over the state today. Chanley, great to see you. Tell me what else you were able to learn from that interview with the first responders, Jason Chapman and Laura Rutland.
Well, it was so revealing to sit down with two lead investigators, for the Colleton County Sheriff's Department. They responded to the scene, and then they were integral witnesses for the prosecution early on in their case in chief. And then, Vinnie, we could see them. You were here. See them around the courthouse, keeping everyone in line, keeping us safe. And wonderful people. They sat down exclusively with Court TV to talk more about the scene, what they witnessed, and to address a lot of the concerns the defense brought up in the case. The defense theme in this case was really to attack the credibility of the investigation, what investigators missed at that crime scene. And so Captain Chapman and Laura Rutland told me they wanted to explain some things, and they did. They explained the footprint, bloody footprint left at the scene in the feed shed, saying that was left removing Paul's body. After they cleared the crime scene, that happened then. And they didn't get to tell that to the jury. The hair found in Maggie's hand was something that the defense wanted to point to try to indicate there was some sort of a struggle. We don't know whose hair that is. Laura Rutland told me that she was the one that evaluated that, and she says that was Maggie's hair. She was confident based on the scene, hair on other parts of the body. It was all consistent in that way. So just filling in some of those gaps that maybe were unclear during the trial, Vinnie.